This is the first developer monthly for Gno.land that we want to kick off. I think maybe just 1 minute for every single person to introduce themselves, because there's a lot of people on the call, and that might help facilitate the technical discussion.
Let's do that.
Okay. Want to take it away, Jay?
I'm Jay. I'm a developer. I worked on Tendermint, Cosmos, and the SDK, and now we're working on Gno.VM. It's a novel virtual machine that will change the paradigm of smart contract programming and maybe programming itself. So.
Hi, I'm Manfred from the core team too, with a goal to help Jay making his vision and also making my personal vision of a decentralized world of a single big meta computer with new paradigms, with a platform for developers. And yeah, my current focus is to help the project to be more structured and have more contribution from external people and partners while scaling the core team, so we can have a great project with a huge, diverse core contributors team.
Milos, you want to go? I'll call people.
Yeah, I guess I'll go next. Well, Jay and Manfred are a tough introduction to follow after. Yeah, so my name is Milos. I'm one of the core engineers that works on Gno. Not much exactly to say. Before Gno, I used to work on Polygon Edge. I used to lead development efforts on Edge. So this is sort of my second blockchain client that I'm working on. It's sort of like that Phineas and Ferb meme where the doctor says, if I had a nickel for every blockchain client I worked on, I would have like 2 nickels, which is not a lot, but it's kind of weird that it happened twice. So this has been sort of my experience so far. And yeah, it's been great. Also looking at the contributors we have on Gno and just discussing things with them every day on the repo.
Maybe, I don't know, Ilker? Going through?
Hey everyone, I'm Ilker. I'm working on a web-based IDE for Gno.land to make it very quick, building realms and packages, and to give a lot of experience, user experience, provide a good UX for everything around building a realm, including things like making the testing easier and like including features like auto-completion in the editor and all other features that you can expect from an IDE. Yeah, I think that's all from me.
Louis?
Just to add, and Ilker, by doing his IDE, will also give valuable APIs for people building tools around Gno. Because yes, for his IDE, we'll have needs that I already had when I was trying to write small tools. So probably Ilker will surprise you with useful community APIs, documentation APIs, discovery APIs, etc.
Loic, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. Hey everyone, nice to meet you. I'm Loic. I work at Kiln. We are a company operating mostly on Ethereum, but also on many deepest chains. We run validators and build staking services on top of that. And on the side, I try to contribute to a lot of blockchain projects. Gno is one of them. I created the Gno.land space website to create some resources to onboard users and developers to Gno, and also helped Manfred organize some workshops at Medellin or Paris. Nice to meet you.
Who next? The first one for me is Ian.
Yeah. that sounds
Hey,
good.
everybody. My name is Ian Clausen. I'm working with an organization called Sage. I guess the easiest or the clearest way to say it right now is we're early adopters, I think, of Gno.land and the smart contracting platform and the VM that Jay is building. We're super excited to start authoring smart contracts within the system, and as well as find opportunities to help collaborate with the core team to move initiatives forward. So excited to be here.
Then I have Alexis, which is from AIB.
Hey, I'm Alexi, a creative developer who works on improving user experience through design and front-end development. I'm working with Olympus Meet marketing, design, developer teams for 1 year now, and I'm happy to work with Gno today.
It looks like also we have Andrew.
Everyone, I'm Andrew. I'm from Armblock. We're a software development company based in South Korea. We're currently building these infrastructures and tools for Gno.land, such as Adena, the web extension wallet for Gno.land, and GnoScan, the blockchain explorer. And I personally work at Armblock as a junior product manager, mainly doing research, content writing, and product design. Happy to be here.
That's nice to finally put a voice to it. Seeing you on Discord. Thomas, and then we have a few more, and then we can get to the technical. Or maybe Chris, Thomas, and then Grip, Suzette, and Maxwell.
Hi, I'm Maxwell. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, my name's Maxwell. And, I'm a developer. I like music. I like football. Yeah, I have some work on some feature of inter-contract communication, and also have some time on the governance module. Maybe I will put some time on gas management or some work on VMs as Manfred suggested. Yeah, I feel excited in this team. I feel excited on this work. Yeah, I will carry on. Thank you.
That's okay. Okay, so Thomas' mic doesn't work. I guess we have Chris and Grep left, and then we can get going.
Hey, I'm Chris Gibson. I'm working with Ian on the Sage chain, so I'm just kind of dropping in to see what's going on.
Welcome. Then Grep, or maybe it's not Grep, but it says Grep Suzette.
Maybe we'll stay mute.
Yeah. Okay.
I was proposing to Miloš that this time he makes a small introduction to what's going on right now in terms of news from the core team, updates, new features. Could you make something with your opinion, Miloš?
Sure. Just a question: how far back do we need to go for the announcements?
I would say just focus on the current mode, maybe the last week, 2 weeks, what makes sense. Just give your opinion on how things are going on and maybe what's the evolution from the previous period. We have more contributions, what kinds, etc.
Yeah. So actually, for the past 2 weeks, we've had just like a tsunami of contributions, both on like issues and just regular PRs and generally in discussions. One of the biggest things we're working on right now, or rather like in the past 2 weeks, we added support for Gno.mod, which is sort of a version of GoMod that gives you just like an easier interface to manage your dependencies and version your dependencies. I'm not sure we're 100% done with adding full-on Gno.mod support, but we're around like 2/3 of the way there. we have like an ongoing issue on GitHub that you can track. Yeah, in terms of contributions for the last few weeks, we've also had a big CLI refactor that went into a code base. We've seen people contribute contracts like GRC 1155 or general improvements to existing realms. We've seen people fix bugs or find bugs that were there and fix them. And yeah, in terms of specifically for Game of Realms, we had a lot of contributions on the DAO. We had contributions for in terms of, let me just find the correct issue that I'm talking about. Yes. So we had great proposals for the governance module. We had proposals for the decentralized DAO. We've had people actually coming in and asking whether or not they could take parts of, be assigned to like specific parts of Game of Realms, which is always like a great sign. And yeah, that's sort of the update for the last 2 weeks. Definitely a spike in users and a spike in contributors over the previous period. And yeah, I'm psyched to see where it goes. It's for me, it's sort of because I used to work on mostly on open source projects. The point where people start posting issues with the bugs they found and start posting PRs with the fixes that they want, it's always a good indication that it's sort of getting widespread adaptability and people are actually using it and teams are actually picking it up. So yeah.
That's really cool. Thank you for that update.
Oh, Manfred, you're muted.
Sorry. Yes, I have a suggestion because we have 40 minutes if you want to keep track of the time, and I have 2 topics I would like to discuss a little bit. One is about UI because Alexis is there, and this is a topic we just start speaking earlier today with another contributor, and we spend 1 hour speaking about it because there are many good options and directions we can follow to make basically an old version of a rendering engine that will be Markdown centric, but with more features for developers, maybe libraries to make writing interface better and more consistent. So there is a topic here open to front-end developers with typography skills, open to library developers that want to create kind of UI framework for Markdown, open to engine developers that want to make custom rendering system, etc. So I would like to take a few minutes. Maybe we can look at what Alexis is working on right now in terms of UI experiments. And then if you're okay, we can discuss about IBC, ICS on Gno, because we have at least one project here that would want to connect with IBC and Gno soon. So we have Jay, we have the Sage blockchain. Maybe you can start with UI and then switch back to IBC and ICS. What do you think?
I think that sounds good, no? Do we want to start with Alexi?
Yeah, I think Alexi, you can share your screen on what you were working on. So
Yeah,
it was mostly for the main website, but we take the topic as a good context for thinking larger and thinking about smart contract development too. So yes, feel free to present what you want, and I will explain what are the next challenges and who can just help us on the topics.
Okay, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So here is the current website we have. It follows the Web 1 principles, and we wanted to keep that feeling, but adding some features or design in a more polished way. Yeah, in a more polished way. So I've created some design on Figma I wanted to show you, and yeah, here here we are, and get some feedbacks regarding how we can do that. Because right now we are implementing the content through Markdown and yeah, Go and HTML interfaces. And yeah, the problem is some of the current design we have is mainly the content just above another one in a very vertical list. Here we have other kind of content like column, like inline blocks, boxes, just like here, and yeah, and so on. So it's still follow the web one feelings we liked and we want to keep, but we need to add more way to create content. So yeah, the best thing we can do is maybe brainstorm around the ID you have. Yeah, Manfred, you told me that you told us that you had a talk with another core contributor, and
Yeah.
what was your opinion about that?
My opinion is my ultimate goal is to keep some things that will always be readable in plain text, so pure Markdown. But I would love to see that we can give possibilities for developers when they are using or rendering engine from the main website to, if possible, have basic layout, maybe have an efficient way to have a consistent menu on the left, maybe have way to make simple 2 or 3 columns designs, and if possible, doing it in a way that will be very readable, not mixing too many HTML and Markdown. So we have multiple ways. We can be very, very Markdown centric. We can be more flexible and have HTML. We can try to create kind of structures so we can define things that will be understandable by machines. And when I say machines, I can say that it will be parsable by the engine, but it can be parsed by a wallet. For instance, the IDNet team could be able to parse a new structure we define explaining how to interact with the contract, like a form or stuff like that. So yeah, the discussion is about can we try something? Can we try to find something that will be readable in plain text, okay-ish in Github rendering engine, so the default Markdown rendering engine, but give additional options like multi-columns, maybe some basic colors to give to help people get error tracking warnings. So yeah, there is a trade-off to find to stay simple. And for me, the ideal world is it's still very readable in plain text. That's my top target. So
yeah.
Here we have a good example because multiple columns for me is something that should be added, but it's clearly not Markdown compatible by default. So this is a simple example of what kind of extension we could do. How can we make something that will still make sense in Markdown, but that would allow to have basic layouts?
Hello? So this one is we can't have vertical columns in Markdown text, plain text, but that's okay. I think there's a way to do this already without making an extension to the Markdown parser, which is to use classes, like HTML classes, and then to just use CSS to format a div. So as long as we can have a div and put a class in it, which maybe is already possible just by inserting div class equals ABC in the Markdown, maybe it works. But I think that would be the right way to solve the problem with CSS and classes for vertical columns, not with the.
But it needs you had more HTML in your Markdown. So I don't know if it's the main goal here.
No, the main goal is to have readable plain text. If we have div with class, it's readable. If we start having advanced HTML with tables, etc., it becomes unreadable. If we mix too many level of HTML, it becomes not Markdown anymore. But if we allow some basic div and class, it will clearly be very readable.
So yeah, I agree with Jay. It's easily done by just static HTML and CSS.
Yeah.
Well, maybe okay. Maybe we'll add an extension. We'll want to add an extension, something about the curly braces. I don't know. Div HTML is just so ugly, but I do agree it's good enough too. And I'm not sure. Yeah. Anyway, I think we're on the same page. Thank you.
Yeah, just to give more context to people, the good thing here is we have many options. One of them is clear to extend Markdown, but before we can have HTML, we can have a better configuration of the existing engine that actually allows HTML. We can have whitelist and blacklist. But another thing to consider, we are in a smart contracting platform with where we encourage people to compose contracts with existing good libraries. So we can have something that will actually hide the HTML stuff. So instead of concatenating strings with mixing HTML, new lines, Markdown, maybe we can make something easy to use. Okay, I have a nav bar. I have a footer with pagination. I have an error. I have 2 columns. So at the end, if we put the effort in the library to generate readable Markdown, we can have basic HTML and really easy to read Go code, Gno code.
And what about shortcodes? I mean, I love to work with Hugo as a front-end developer, and I know shortcode can do that work inside the Markdown files.
Yeah, it could. Shortcode is not limited to HTML. The Hugo template engine is probably too big for Gno, but its spirit and the philosophy of shortcode could work for sure. And we can use a text template Go package. So yeah, but for me, we will have optional UI frameworks that people can import and use instead of concatenating strings. And then we can integrate in the framework themselves what we are doing. But yeah, I would love to make sure that we go in a way that stay Markdown centric. So in the future, we can have a logo browser running in the CLI or without the full HTML support. We can have wallets to understand the contracts. Maybe we can have people building very, very basic dApps with pure HTML, CSS, JS, and linked with a smart contract realm API by default. So yeah, this is a very open topic, and right now I wanted just to show you what all the possibilities we are, so we can continue thinking about this. We have multiple issues open. Feel free to just share your thought right now or in the issues and share the good inspiration. So for instance, Hugo shortcode is something we didn't list. Feel free, Alexi, to list Hugo and shortcodes. And yeah, in general, another thing I would like to consider is the forms. Forms is something I would like to avoid in HTML if we can, but that will require that the rendering engine understands something, which can be 2ML, JSON, YAML, something. So we have more less obvious stuff, because for sure the multi-column can be addressed with div and class. But for things like forms, we have to make a trade-off between more HTML or more custom specifications. Any opinion on form support, especially for maybe Andrew from IDENA? How would you like to discover a package and maybe generate automatic forms based on the suggested proposal by the developer? So you can discover the signature of functions, but what about allowing the developer to suggest a form and have IDENA pre-filled with the developer suggested values?
I'd say I think at first we should just use HTML and figure out whitelisting of HTML elements, because even if we don't know, we probably don't know exactly what markdown format to use, and so this allows for there to be experiments that compile to HTML, and then we can maybe settle on a solution in the future.
In terms of steps, I'm aligned. In terms of, I try to find the most extreme cases to decide how much we want to diverge from basic Markdown. And I take into account optional new browsers like Logo or wallet integrations, maybe one day mobile apps, some things that want to stay compiled once and then able to discover a contract. So yeah, the form is something we can use. We can already use some HTML, even if it will probably come with security issues to address, but that's the same without HTML actually.
Yeah, well, another thought is forms maybe eventually we want to tie it to a Go structure with tags to like annotate what options there are, etc. And so maybe it is best expressed in code that renders the form rather than necessarily human readable form. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but so in short, I feel like yeah, we maybe we've got crazy options like that. Maybe that makes sense, and if so, then HTML is sufficient for now. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, okay. Just anyway, anyone feel free to share anything on the issues related to this. And just so you know, right now I am experimenting with a simple UI framework that could replace concatenation of strings in the render of a function of a contract, with the goal to make the code more Go idiomatic and typed, plus have more consistencies between the contracts using the same framework. So always the same way to make a breadcrumb and a footer, etc. So I am exploring this on the side. Alexis from AAB will make in various workshops internally with marketing team, with me, with other people. So please share any advices on what could be great in terms of UI experimentation with our constraints to provide more feature for smart contract developers and make them most of the time not depending on of having an additional server to make a custom front end. Ultimately, we should make something where you can write your full DApp exclusively on Gno.
So I guess a form render. Never mind. We don't have reflection in Gno yet, so it's kind of hard to create a general form render in Gno using smart contracts. So.
No, but we have a new feature which is still in progress, which is basically at the equivalent of Go.doc. So parsing the types, the variables, and reflecting from Go. So we will be able to access structures and tags from the engine and maybe with an RPC call. So we should be able to get more than just the function signature without having to parse anything.
Cool.
So yeah, I will also experiment this part of being more Go idiomatic with tags. Do you want to share something else, Alexis, before we switch to IBC ICS topic?
No, I think it's all for me now, but I'll be happy to continue very soon with all of you guys.
Yeah, I think we will discuss with Morgan, which is not there now, but he was interested by the topic. So we can make a workshop with Morgan and maybe more people.
Yeah, just a question on this topic. Was there already discussions to just pass, like maybe have different, let's say, render formats that could be supported and pass them as parameter of the render function of a realm? Like, let's say the default one would be Markdown, like really, let's say, stupid Markdown. Then we would be able to pass like, format HTML, and it would render HTML, CSS without JavaScript. And that would be up to the developer of the realm to implement that, to have its own front end. We could imagine maybe like some format, XML or whatever, if you have specific needs around that. Like, was this kind of feature already discussed? Or?
I personally dislike the idea of having to manage multiple formats, because we discussed this topic and we all had this experience of writing low-level emails and having to write custom plain text and HTML, and you have to implement twice. You can have inconsistencies between all of them. The solution I'm more focused is to stay Markdown centric, Markdown first, but maybe have helpers to extract one part of the Markdown document and say this JSON part, this triple backtick JSON named with that name, could be maybe understood by a machine, by a wallet, by an API client. So staying Markdown first, but having more and more embedded substructures when it makes more sense to have a structure than just paragraph for humans.
Okay, yeah.
Should we switch to talking about how Gno will have IBC, ICS on its mainnet, and what strategy we can have in general in terms of connecting Gno to the other existing Cosmos chain and upcoming chain?
So I have one question that might be tangential, and if you want to move it to another discussion, we can. But you kind of brought up the topic of being able to write your entire dApp, in the smart contract and execute it that way. One of the things that we've been looking at is potentially leveraging things like IPFS or OrbitDB for things that don't need to necessarily go onto the blockchain, right? But things that are a part of what we're trying to do from a functional perspective. And we noticed that the net HTTP library not only kind of look like it wasn't implemented yet in Gno, but like also wasn't intended to be. And so, there may be a paradigm that you're seeking to lay out, right? And if we could understand that, that would be great. Or if there is a future where that type of a module will exist within Gno. Just wanted to hear your thoughts on that, because it's somewhat tangential to the Markdown and rendering discussion, right?
Are you talking about making net HTTP requests from within a smart contract?
Yeah, and if that's just, there's obviously this minimalist and security, considerations in place here. So like, if the paradigm is we're supposed to run a server that has RPC calls that proxy those type of calls, right? Like that may be a way forward, right? But
yeah, if you want to just embed an image which is hosted somewhere and let the browser make the second request, there is no limitation today. But if you want the contract to make a request, there are too many problems to solve, and it should be a feature that could be added on Gno, but not as a built-in stuff for a blockchain that should just be very, very stable. But here we can have oracles, we can have DAO-centric oracles like maybe Chainlink or equivalent than on Ethereum to actually pull content in a consensus way from the external world into the blockchain. But the blockchain should not depend on something that is too unstable. IPFS is clearly different because we can trust and verify the content of what we just downloaded, and it should match the CID itself. But probably the first method to make requests from contracts will be a workflow, maybe like Chainlink, when the contract can add a queue, add a request queue, then let something else, something external, an approved Oracle or a consensus-based Oracle system to fetch the content, make the consensus decision, and then publish the result. But by default, the contract could not access low-level stuff like the real hardware clock, make HTTP requests, access to the file system. They should just be deterministic in terms of timing, hardware, everything actually. So if you need this, I suggest that you try to find a way to not depend on making external transactions, maybe by mixing, the UI that will actually call IPFS instead of having the backend to call IPFS. And then if you really need to have external data in the contracts, it's more something like an Oracle updating regularly the contract with the data itself. But probably it will be something existing because it's obvious for people to cover this need, but not from the core of Gno, or not for a very long time. It will be something probably an external module or external flow to manage this.
So kind of high-level workflow would be then do all of the work that you need to do in the dApp prior to writing transaction to the blockchain. If I need to go get an address from IPFS or something like that, and then consolidate all that down to now we're ready to interact with an actual transaction in the smart contract, called smart contract, pass what we need, and complete, as opposed to doing some of that on the fly or having a more dynamic process.
It really depends, because IPFS is very, very special. Yes, it depends on the internet, but once again, it's special because it's not dynamic. When you have a CID, the content will always be the same. You have two options, not having it or having it and being sure that you have the good one. But just consider that Gno won't support any kind of HTTP request from contract by default. And if your application requires this pattern, which is clearly an obvious pattern that could make sense in many ways, we need to find alternative ways to get the data. And probably, in general, blockchains mixing the blockchain and IPFS are always relying on the client itself to make the bridge. For instance, most of the NFTs are published on blockchain contracts, but then they are not doing any request to IPFS. They are waiting for the browser to query the IPFS network. So maybe we can make a dedicated session with your developers so I can just get more understanding, better understanding of whether the contract needs to understand the data, or if just the client needs to use the blockchain to know what data should be fetched from another system, and if it's okay to rely on the client security to make sure that you have what you wanted. Maybe you can just
I think the majority is the latter scenario that you brought up. So we can hold on if there are very specific ones where we need to get into a further discussion here. I'm
really interested to know this use case and to make sure that we have solutions for each use cases. I just can say you that there is no way, especially at the beginning and in core, that a contract will make external requests.
Perfect. That answers the question we were after. Just kind of, is it part of the future or not? And then you gave the philosophy behind it, and that works.
Now we will talk about IBC and ICS, and actually there are a specific use case where some validators have a special role, and maybe we can also try to consider the same pattern where one validator, it can be the one managed by the official company, so something people are already trusting. Maybe this validator can just make the request and generate transactions, or we can think about similar topics. When you have IBC, that's not the whole blockchain that will make requests. You will have requests to one validator, but the blockchain understands the verb of making an IBC transaction and is able to verify it. maybe this pattern is kind of okay in terms of it's enough for many cases, while staying very near to the blockchain without having to have an external oracle. So yeah, I suggest we just discuss with your team so I get more understanding on your need. Anyway, we'll note it to try to find solutions for people with similar needs. But yeah, what do you think? Is it okay to try to speak about, in general, how Gno could connect to the rest of the Cosmos existing blockchains after mainnet launch, and just discuss what we have in mind about what could be the evolution after this for blockchain maybe that will run Gno VM2 and want probably more features. Yeah, well, Gno won't be the consumer anymore, but we will have consumer blockchains connected to Gno.
You know, maybe we can actually send that HTTP request to IBC.
Yeah, for me, the IBC approach is a good way to manage stuff like cron jobs or yeah, HTTP request, but it's more linked to the blockchain than an oracle that will make transaction with a local wallet. But just so you know, it's a special use case. It can fail. If the validator is done, the transaction will fail. So in terms of consistency, it's already an exception, but probably it's the best way to do it from a blockchain point of view without abusing the system by simulating you are a user as a bot. But yeah, Jan, I suggest we just discuss together, and I will make sure that we have this specific case documented so we can find the best solution for everyone.
Sounds good. Happy to move on to the ICS IBC.
So first, we are working on clarifying the vision of Gno and communicating it with the people, including what is something that talked a lot to us because we are more in not closing too many doors and allowing us to keep the choice of how we want to implement things over time. So we are committed to link, to connect Gno to other blockchains. If possible, if it makes sense, if we can, it will be with Cosmos Hub. That's what we want today. And just in terms of dependencies and yeah, facts, in terms of order, we need to launch the mainnet first, then to enable IBC. So IBC can be started before. We can work on IBC before launching the mainnet, but anyway, we need to launch the mainnet first, then connect IBC, then connect ICS in that order. So we can work in multiple streams in parallel if we want, but so you know, the core team will be focused. We have his main focus on launching Gno.land mainnet in good conditions. No, IBC 1 is something we want to do. We want to connect to the existing Cosmos ecosystem. IBC X 2, 3, 4, 1.5, I don't know actually, is something we have in mind for usages we would like to add in the future. That's not the priority, but we believe that we will work on this topic at some point when it will make sense and when we'll have accurate use cases in our mind and accurate use cases maybe with partners that have these new needs. And ICS is something we believe a lot in. So ideally, we would like to be consumer, ICS consumer of existing Cosmos chain, and tomorrow that Gno could also power other chains, the Gno VM chains at least. So at the end, we have a growing ecosystem of blockchains with new IBC features and allowing people to write contracts and reuse contracts from other Gno zones, and have this final meta big computer of interconnected blockchains or interconnected contracts with maybe some of them with HTTP fetchers because they need it, some other one with bigger storage, some other one with I don't know what custom needs. So we want to have, and we will have IBC and ICS it will come after the mainnet, but we'll certainly start working on it before. Maybe we can, I don't know, Jay, do you want to tell what you have in mind about how we can go to that direction for the mainnet? And also we can discuss about how someone that want to run Gno VM blockchain, its own instance of Gno VM blockchain should should they set up their own blockchain and turn it into one, two, connected with what other blockchains? I think is that the biggest question from many people here.
Let's say here's the plan. We want the common ICS implementation that works across many hubs. Gno.land is a kind of hub. It'll want its own ICS to scale itself, but it also wants to provide the VM on consumer chains on the Cosmos hub. So ICS hubs will be everywhere. So it's, so we need to figure out how to solve ICS and how to get the Gno VM available as a consumer chain on the Cosmos Hub's ICS system. If we can't, then maybe, it means we need to fork the Cosmos Hub, or something's wrong. So we need to fix it somehow. But this is what our plan is. And it's so important because not only is this like the scaling solution that we need, but also it's also it just ties into our overall business plan, to make it all sustainable, to have many VMs running. And so so what we need to do, so when the Cosmos Hub launches, doesn't mean IBC or ICS is like needed at the time of launch, because launching the chain with smart contracts running is like in itself important for us, so we can run our smart contracts. Perhaps Game of Realms will run after we launch the chain, right? But we should get started on ICS and IBC integration. So for ICS, we need IBC, and we need IBC for a lot of reasons, including token transfers. So the way we'll do it is by taking the current implementation of IBC written for the Cosmos SDK, porting that over to Tendermint 2. And there's going to be issues we encounter along the way, including security patches that need to be applied to our own code base as well. But so we need help, say, looking through all the changes since the last Tendermint version Tendermint 2 is based off of, and looking for all the security fixes that we may need to apply to our own code base. And it's the kind of work we need to do to make this plan work. Otherwise, we should be able to port the IBC module into our minimal SDK. We already have auth and bank. We should be able to get IBC in there too. I want us to kind of like quarantine protobuf stuff, but for the purpose of supporting IBC, and requiring protobuf for a time isn't the worst thing. So we should, I guess I'd like to know who's interested in this parallel track, right? So this is going to be a separate piece of work that is independent of, Gno.land immediate launch plan, right? But this is IBC integration parallel track. But it will require developers who can invest the time. It's going to take significant time to understand how the like client system works, right? How IBC proofs work. But if you're interested in doing this, I'd like to know who you are so we can get a group together.
Yeah, I think we discussed this last week. I'm actually looking into IBC integration this week. So yeah.
All right.
Definitely the Sage team would like to be a part of that conversation if it's a, wherever that conversation is happening.
Let's organize a workshop, Jan, with your team, Miloš. We discover your need in terms of net HTTP, and we can just share the current state of understanding of what will be the exact step for IBC. Then we should document the plan and invite people to help us, or in the meantime, start developing it. But yeah, it's something important for Gno, so it can take part of Game of Thrones and be incentivized to the community to become a good contributor. It's clearly a good contribution that deserves points and to gain membership in the upcoming DAO. So maybe, yes, we can bootstrap the thing, but make sure that we document the plan and missing stuff and missing questions. I heard that other organizations will want to help us, other organization of the Cosmos. So yeah, the main mission is not to develop, but to write a doc explaining the steps and findings. Any other point? We need to switch with the Gno team to another meeting, but any other point, someone want to share a question about IBC, ICS? Just so you know, I won't explain because it's too long, but I have basic ideas of how we could mix proof of contributions based blockchains with ICS against proof of stake. I would love to discuss this topic later in another call, but yeah, I have some ideas to make these two systems compatible, at least with ICS.
Just one point to clarify what you were saying, Manfred and Jay, on the IBC for Game of Realms challenge. Is that something that we would want to publish soon? In terms of timing, what is the timing for this?
We can publish it soon, but it's not a priority for phase 1 because phase 1 should be finished as soon as possible to unlock more people from phase 2. But since phase 1 is to create an evaluation DAO that will review everything, consider that if IBC were fixed this week, even if we announce it for the phase 2, it will be counted as a contribution anyway. So we can announce it right now, but we should ask people to stay focused also on phase 1 because the goal is to switch as when we can to phase 2. So it's already open as any other issue actually, because evaluation DAO will review everything that makes sense that was asked before the competition, etc. Once again, Game of Thrones is we give guidelines, but we want to bootstrap the future proof of contribution. We want to bootstrap a DAO of developers, of contributors, of people that care and understand the blockchain. So there is no limitation technically. If someone makes a very, very good contributions that wasn't planned, it will be reviewed and counted for points. The only thing is on our side, we try to give guidelines to help people and to guide them to actually work on the highest priorities. That's all. So yes, we will make the discussion with Jan, Miloš, and other people, document it, and it will be available on GitHub in the list of official tasks people can work on. But it's an important step. Maybe we won't wait for people to take it. I suggest people to show their interest as soon as possible if they want to participate. So we can be more people to work on it. But just in general, Michelle, there is no restriction. Okay. We have priorities, that's all.
Okay, and then one last point, just so that everyone knows, this, I think Jay said, let's make this bi-weekly. So we will open up a GitHub issue. I don't know if you guys are familiar how with Ethereum the PM goes, but like we'll open up a GitHub issue, come up with a little bit of a talking points, and then if you want to add things, and then we'll just host this, right, Jay? I guess every bi-weekly. So
So the monthly call, it becomes a bi-weekly from its first instance. But yes, a bi-weekly call in public between the contributors, the partners, everyone already well inside the project. And we keep the other bi-weekly on Game of Realms on Discord, open to anyone that want to discuss, and where we are focusing on Game of Realms current topics. So count on having at least 4 public meetings per month where people can follow what we are working on. And yeah, that's all.
Okay, I'm going to stop recording and then we will see you guys in 2 weeks then.